I wanted to step back for a moment and talk to you a little bit about how to choose which property of equality to use. What I often find is students struggle, especially when the values are negative, with whether to add, subtract, multiply, or divide to isolate the variable. Remember, that's our goal every time, is we're trying to get x by itself by undoing whatever has been done to it. So the big trick really is to find out what actually has been done to our variable of x. So notice I have four very similar looking equations here. All of them involve negative 3 and x and 9, and I'm using all of the different operations. In my first equation, I have a negative 3 plus x, so this is obviously addition. I need to undo addition by subtraction, but the problem here is that I'm subtracting a negative 3. So if I subtract a negative 3, what am I actually doing? If I keep flip change or leave change opposite, what I'm actually doing is adding 3. Remember, I'm just trying to get that part to cancel out to either 0 or 1, depending if I'm multiplying it or adding it. If I have a negative 3 plus 3, those will add to 0, and 0 plus x is x. If I added 3 to the left, I have to add 3 to the right, so 9 plus 3 obviously is 12. Feel free to do those checks, plug it back in. Negative 3 plus 12 is 9, and 9 equals 9, so it checks out. This is a subtraction question, but again, because I'm dealing with a negative value, I have x minus negative 3. So before I do anything else, whenever I see those two negatives in a row, I'm always going to keep flip change. So this is actually an easier question now. This is x plus 3. How do I get rid of plus 3 to make sure x is alone? I would subtract 3. Subtracting 3 from each side on the left side gives me x, and on the right side, 9 minus 3 is 6. Again, you can do that check. 6 plus positive 3 is 9. 9 equals 9, and so it works out. For my third attempt, I've got negative 3x equals 9. Remember, there's no multiplication sign here, but that's essentially what's being done. So how do I undo multiplication by negative 3? I divide by negative 3. This is the one that I feel students struggle with the most. I should be dividing by negative 3. What I get quite often is students who will add 3 because they see the minus and think, well, the opposite of minus 3 is plus 3, so x must be 12. But if I plug that back in and take negative 3 times 12, I get negative 36 equals 9, so I know I did something wrong. So please be very careful when you're doing these questions. So negative 3 times x, to undo, I divide by negative 3. 9 divided by negative 3 gives me negative 3. To do the check, I plug it back in. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9, and 9 equals 9. So this one is not okay. And the last one, again, we've talked already about what happens with this negative. I could choose to put it on the x, which would make it negative 1x, or choose to put it on the 3, which makes more sense in this case, so that I can then get rid of it when I do my step of multiplying by negative 3, because that would be the opposite operation of division by negative 3. So if I multiply by negative 3 on the left, my negative 3 on top and on bottom cancels, and I get x over 1, which is x, and 9 times negative 3 is negative 27, and that's my answer. I do the check. Negative 27 divided by negative 3 is positive 9, and so that checks out. I wanted to do a few more difficult questions with you as well. So here we're again going to draw our wall every time, and I want to do some simplification on each side. So here I'm going to say negative 3x plus 10x will combine together because they're on the same side of the equal sign to 7x. And on the right side, 9 and minus 2 are also like terms, and they will combine to positive 7. So now I have 7x equals 7. Now I'm going to use that inverse operation. So that first step was just to combine like terms on each side. So we're cleaning it up before we do inverse operations. This is 7 times x. I'm going to divide by 7 because that's the opposite operation to get x equals 1. Again, I can plug that back in and do the check. And similar question here, negative 8 plus 12, combine those to get positive 4. I've got a minus 4 that I'm going to distribute. Minus 4 times t is minus 4t. Minus 4 times 7 is minus 28, and I still have plus 11. And notice I still have not used my inverse operation at all because I haven't cleaned up this right side yet. It's in fact just as messy as it was before. So I'll leave the 4. I'm going to combine the 5t and the minus 4t because those are like terms. 5 minus 4 is 1, so that's 1t, or just t. And I'll also combine negative 28 and 11 because they are like terms. They're both constants. They're different signs, so I find the difference between 11 and 28, which is 17. The bigger sign is negative, so my answer is negative. And now this is a fairly simple, straightforward question. I'm trying to get t by itself. I have to undo minus 17 with the inverse operation of plus 17. I have to do that to each side of the wall. 4 plus 17 is 21. On the right side, I'm left with only t. If it makes you feel better inside, go ahead and put the t on the left side and the 21 on the right side, but make sure that you write this step first. Please don't go straight from here to here, or that will be very confusing later when we're doing inequalities. Here are 2 of the tougher questions for you to try on your own. So go ahead and press pause, try both questions, then press play to see how you did. For my first, I have 5x minus x. Remember, if there is no coefficient, there is just a 1. So 5 minus 1 is 4x. On the right side, 11 minus 3 is 8. And now this is a very simple question. I will divide by 4 on each side. On the left side, I get 1x, which is x. On the right side, 8 divided by 4 is 2. And for my second question, negative 6 plus 1, those are like terms. They combine to negative 5. On the right side, I have to do some distributive property to get the parentheses out of my equation. So 2 times t is 2t, and 2 times 4 is 8. I'm doing a lot of recopying, and that's okay. Negative 3 and plus 2t combine together to negative 1t, or negative t. The minus 8 and plus 8 combine together to get 0, and so instead of writing plus 0, I'm just going to leave it just like this. But I'm trying to find out what positive 1t is, and so I'm going to divide by a negative 1 to find out that positive t is equal to positive 5.